So how does that happen? How does that, and why can't businesses do that too? Because it comes down to basically one thing. A lot of people don't want to check their egos at the door. It's all about their personal win instead of the big mission. Because if you saw the movie Sully, which I don't know if you have or not, the mission of that day was actually said verbally for the first time in the movie Sully. But all the passengers and crew knew it as we were going through it. But it says that the mission, everybody knew what the mission was. And the mission was no one dies today. So everybody checked their egos at the door like
Business with a servant's heart. Servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Steve Ramona. Business with a servant's heart. Servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness.
Shout out to my sponsors, A Mind for All Seasons. Your brain is your greatest competitive edge, so why not optimize it? Just text OPTIMIZE to 72000, 72000 for instant access to 6 quick videos that help you think faster, remember more, and stay focused longer. A big thanks to Epic App, the 4-step storytelling system I use every day to connect and to convert. Try it free. Email me at stever1961@gmail.com. That's stever1961@gmail.com, and I'll get you the free app. Doing Business with Servant's Heart was just named top 6 in small business marketing. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I'm pretty excited, but interested because A Miracle on the Hudson, the movie Sully, this guest today was the last survivor coming out of the plane. But like I always tell you, that servant heart learns from trauma, catastrophic events, things that happen. It could be as small as you lose your job, and that's not small, but it could be where almost died. The 2 levels trauma events, but how he's bounced back, and he's super successful now. So let's bring our guest on. Dave, welcome to the show.
Steve, thank you for having me today.
Don't like to start with backgrounds. I want to be a little different, but you got to tell us the story about the Miracle on the Hudson. What happened?
I'll give you the short version. So coming back from a 3-day business trip, last stop was in Brooklyn, New York. So we got done with our day early because we were working in a distribution center, and then we got done at 10 o'clock that morning. So I was going to grab the early flight home to get back to Charlotte with my wife and my 4 kids. I gave up a first class seat, 5 o'clock for C-15A on flight 1549, which is now known as the Miracle on the Hudson. So I got on the plane, no big deal, right? It was 11 degrees and snow, but that's New York in the middle of winter. That's no big deal. And LaGuardia was backed up. That's no big deal, right? But as we all know now, 60 seconds into the flight is when I heard an explosion. I wasn't paying attention, right? I thought I knew everything about a plane because I fly 100,000 miles a year. Like a lot of people, you think nothing's going to happen until it does. And then you hear this explosion. It's like, okay, I look out the window. I saw fire coming out from the left wing. But, I thought, I knew planes have multiple engines because, in North America, they got to have at least 2 engines to fly commercially. But no one knew at that point in time that what happened on the left side of the plane where I was at. I was up on the right side of the plane, the same exact time, a double bird strike, knocking out both engines simultaneously. And at that point in time, still didn't think anything was really going on, Steve, because I thought I was banking. So, okay, we're just going to go back to LaGuardia. I'm not going to get home early today, right? No big deal. But as we started banking, something caught my eye that I'd never seen before. And if you saw the movie Sully, you probably may have seen an opening scene. It sort of looked like that, where we were actually banking underneath the highest towers in New York City. We were below the highest tower, so you knew that's something that look right, right? You're not high enough, right? It's like then you start banking it a little bit more, and you come and turning around, and you see this big bridge coming up straight at you, and then see the river, and it's like I've never seen this before, and then we know, at that point in time, it's when the captain said his famous words, "This is your captain, brace for impact," as we were approaching the George Washington Bridge. And that's the moment I knew, and I knew some of the other passengers likewise, this is not good. The captain used the word dire. I probably would have said yes, even more dire, because it's you're going straight down into a river, and I had never seen a successful landing ditching in a river or water. It's usually toppling, as you see in the past videos. So yeah, that's the moment I had to sort of check in, not only with my creator, but sort of make sure that I had my ducks in a row. And it was about 60 seconds after we crossed over the bridge, so we crashed into the river. And it was a very hard hit, Steve. He estimates he hit between 110 and 120 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's how hard a hit it was. People don't really understand how hard a hit that is, because cold water is one of the hardest surfaces. And you got to remember, this is winter in New York. This is January 15th. Some of the river had already frozen over. So when we actually hit some of the ice. So it was a hard hit, backside, front side, and he skidded for about 100 yards or so. And then all of a sudden it gets really quiet. And now you're checking in. I mean, I survived, right? And you look out the window, it's like I survived, but you got another problem now. You got waters rushing in. And water where I was at 15A was about knee level deep already the moment we impacted, because it came in the back of the plane, because the back of the plane got damaged. So water started coming in the back of the plane, which I was towards the back. Yeah, and so water was about knee level deep. So it's like, man, gotta get out of here, right? And I made a game plan, because one of the things I did when I grew up playing sports, you always go into the game with a game plan. I mean, what are we going to do? We get in this. So I knew if I survived, I better have a game plan. Because one of the things I learned through my years of being head security for Tony Robbins, if I said enough to myself, I get it in my body. So I just react, right? I would have to think. One of the things I learned is to try to take all these things out of the equation down to the lowest common denominator. That's just to act and get it done. So mine was aisle up out. My game plan was aisle. I kept saying aisle up out, aisle up out. So it gave me what I was going to do, and that's what happened. So I got to the aisle. I was getting ready to go up and out, and that's when that day changed for me again, because that's when I heard my mom start talking to me. And my mom passed away in 1997, but there's something she would tell me when I was a child, and all of a sudden I heard saying in my head was, if you do the right thing, God will take care of you. And the right thing for me was you take care of other people first. Because I grew up in a small town outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, where everybody knew each other and everybody took care of each other. So instead of going up and out, I climbed over the C-score towards the back of the plane, see if anybody needed help. Yeah. And things were moving pretty quick, because the water was about chest level in the back of the plane. So things are moving quick, but it's dark. It's dark, getting dark, right? And now your plane is already submerged, in the back of the plane submerged. So you just had to feel your way out. And so as I was feeling my way out, I saw a light over on the right side. It was a door called 10F. Like, I'm out of here. So as soon as I got there, I was like, all right, I was the last person, let's get out of here. But then I looked out and there's no room on the wing or the boat for me. And that's how I became the last passenger out of the plane, because I was inside the plane waist deep in 36-degree water for about 7 minutes.
Wow. What was the mindset with everybody? I always want to ask this. I hear the video from the 9/11. That gentleman did the phone voicemail to his wife, how much he loved her, which was, when I listened to that, amazing to me, because it's so calm, like you're sounding calm as well. But was it chaos? I'm sure it was chaos, because you got so many different human beings there.
Yeah, we had 150 passengers, and the term I used that night with Katie Couric on CBS was it was controlled chaos, where yes, it was chaotic. Things were a lot of things going on at one time, and no one lost their heads. And I give a lot of credit to the passengers, because if somebody starts losing their head, that's when they start making irrational decisions, and then things can go sideways pretty quick. But no one lost their heads. It was as orderly as it possibly could be in a time of just surviving a plane crash, right?
Yeah,
so you had some chaos going on, but no one was out of sorts. Everybody was really handling the business.
Dave, what a great lesson for a company who, if you're ever listening, we all have chaos in our businesses. It's just the entrepreneur, big, it doesn't matter, but controlled chaos. You have chaos, keep your mind. I want to talk about real quick what you said about simplifying and listen to your mom. How important is that?
Yeah, I've been very blessed to have parents who taught me a lot of life lessons. But I think that's why I named my second book "Moments Matter," Steve, because one thing I realized after this happened is all those moments in our lives we go through, you don't think of anything about them,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden one day that moment just may serve you right in the future. And in my book "Moments Matter," I detailed 12 of those moments in my as I was growing up, and this is one of them where my mom always told me you keep your head, because as you probably played sports, people try to get in your head and mess with you all the time, right? And there was a time when I was in eighth grade, I was a little bit of a hothead. I mean, I was. I mean, I would fire back, right? And she always told me, keep your head, because once you keep your head, you have a better chance to win. So I've always learned to simplify things down to make me think of just make me think one thought. If I can think of one thought, I can handle it. If I got too many things going on in my head, then I can't accomplish anything. I can't focus. So I've always had the ability, well, I'm not always, I would say since probably college, be able to simplify something down to what's the most important thing right now, right? And the thing I write about a lot is what's my next best move? Because you don't have to know everything about what's going on, but what's my next best move? So then you can take it and then next best move, what's my next best? So just all of a sudden these start piling up and all of a sudden you're making progress.
Confusion leads to desperation.
That's right.
And it sounds like everybody there in the plane wasn't that confused and chaos. Let me ask you, how the pilots and the staff handle it? Again, they're human, and I know they're trained, but
Oh, they did. The crew did a fabulous job that day, and I tell people I'll be forever grateful. I mean, the captain and first officer get all the credit for getting that plane down. They did a fabulous job, and then it was a crew, the flight attendants and the crew, and then it was the entire team, the passengers, crew, and the pilots. So I think the pilots, handle it. They didn't lose their heads. They worked the problem, and like the captain said many times, and I agree with him. He had all those 20,000 hours of 40 years of 20,000 hours of flight just gave him the bank deposits in to make that one big withdrawal, and that was his one big withdrawal, right? That one moment.
that's a great story. I think of when I used to do CPR training. They always tell you, if you're not comfortable doing the CPR, at least go do 911. We're all going to be different when a situation like this happens. And it's, God's blessing. Everybody was in line and chaos was controlled. But this leads to resilience. It's thrown out everywhere. I am a big sports guy. I've interviewed sports guys. It's in business. What's your definition of resilience?
Yeah, it's the ability to have the mindset to be able to bounce back. I mean, I think most people, I think a lot of people have different maybe perspectives on resilience, but the way I look at it is, every time that I've been able just to say, you know what, if I can just bounce back from this, what's my next best move? And I'll go back to when I went back into the Hudson River and swam with the Navy SEALs 5 years ago. I had swam for 40 years, Steve. And here all of a sudden I get invited to swim by my friend who's a captain in the United States Navy to swim with her from New Jersey to New York across the Hudson River. And I had swam. But so, there was a lot of down moments. I mean, I was questioning myself, right? But I knew through the mindset of resiliency to be able to bounce back and not let anything get down too much. Because one of the things I teach right now, something I learned from a gentleman named Dan Sullivan. It's called the gap in the gain. And most people live in a gap mindset where they may have a goal that's out there. They can never, they never get their goal. So they're always questioning themselves instead of looking at the gain where how far have I come? And as long as I stay in a gain mindset, that mindset of resiliency knows that, I've come this far. Well, how much further can I get? So the gap in the gain had a major influence on, I think, my mindset of resiliency.
That's been a red in my head. I was going to ask you a piece of advice you'd give everybody and me, because I selfishly gap and gain. It reminds me, I tell people get better 1% every day. If you're 2%, great. If you're 0.5%, great. But move forward, because people will quit in the game. And goals are out there. It's everywhere in business, and they're important to a point. But I call them, my mentor called me a guide. Steve, your goal is a guide.
That's right.
If you didn't make $1 million this year and you made 100,000, you get. I'm loving this, Dave. It's exactly it. Look at what you did, not what you didn't do.
That's right. How do you measure yourself? And the people who measure themselves backwards are the ones who are basically the ones who are winning in momentum. The ones because. Yeah, and you've heard this analogy, I'm sure 1,000 times. You can never get to the horizon, right? You keep running towards the horizon, you never get there, right? So you get depressed, you get down on yourself. Instead of look how far I've run 6.5 miles. You know, I've done pretty good.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's you got to work out, you burn calories,
Yep.
take that for granted.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Of course, you learned all that. You've done it. You've been in sports. I think sports and business, there's a bridge there that I think kids are missing out on because, sports is not really as popular as it used to be when we were
Yep.
younger, at least when I was.
I know.
But talk about teamwork in business tied to resilience, because I think there's a bridge there.
Yeah, I have a workshop that I talk about. It's called resilience framework, because which I teach companies is primarily salespeople. Is teamwork is that day. The biggest thing amazes me that day, and I tell people this all the time, is 155 people who did not know each other, who did not care about each other, came together in 6 minutes to do something that had never been done before. So how does that happen? How does that, and why can't businesses do that too? Because it comes down to basically one thing. A lot of people don't want to check their egos at the door. It's all about their personal win instead of the big mission. Because if you saw the movie Sully, which I don't know if you have or not, the mission of that day was actually said verbally for the first time in the movie Sully. But all the passengers and crew knew it as we were going through it, but it wasn't spoken. It says that the mission, everybody knew what the mission was. And the mission was no one dies today. That was the mission. So everybody checked their egos at the door. Like, give you an example. I mentioned I went out 10F, which is on the right side of the plane. There was no crew on the right side of the plane. All the crew went out the left side of the plane. So the right side of the plane had to be managed by passengers like me, who had zero training. I never trained for handling a door, right, as a flight attendant, right? But one thing you learn about leadership, right, is if you're being able to give certainty to those uncertain times, to give certainty to them, you're the leader. And I wrote a blog a couple of weeks ago about it. There were CEOs on this thing, right? There were entrepreneurs, there were executives, there were some political figures on this plane, right? But unless you give certainty, they don't look to you for leadership. They look for the guy and gal giving them certainty.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to do the whole time, just give people certainty. Hey, just keep your head, right? Just keep your head. And I try to break patterns of people when they start getting misfocused. I was trying to do things that I learned just to give people certainty in that uncertain time.
Leaders absolutely do, as you just said, keep the crowd, the tribe, whoever, the people, the passengers on the right path, because they will fall off. They're freaking out. They're, we gonna make it, all that. I mean, this is so high end. You make resilience sound simple. It's not. I'm not saying that, because you're at the high end where death was on your door. So how does a business leader take that to their business, whether small, medium, or large?
Yeah, and well, like you mentioned it earlier. Every company's right, especially right now, it's going to uncertainty or some chaos, right? And and the things, maybe it's different. I know it's different now than it was when I was growing up. But when we were growing up back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, you made business plans, you made annual business plans, right? And 5-year plans. And nowadays you make maybe 1-month plans if you're lucky, because things are changing so quickly. So you got to be able to be adaptable too. You got to be able to adapt and be very quick on that. And the people, I can tell people who went through COVID who adapted are the ones you want. Like, I was telling you a little bit about my Zoom system, right? I had to adapt because no one was seeing anybody in person, right? Everything was going by Zoom or WebEx or whatever else we were doing. So you have to, one of the things about leadership, I think there's 2 key tenets to leadership. Number one, you have to be resourceful. You have to be able to use the resources you have in a resourceful way. You may not think, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough team members. I don't have enough skill sets. I don't have enough competency. Well, those who are using those resources in the most resourceful way are the ones who win. Yeah. Second is leaders have to be able to make a decision and go. One of the biggest challenges I see now with some of the companies I deal with and work with, they don't want to make a decision. They're afraid they're going to hurt somebody's feelings, or it's not politically correct, right, or something. And those are the companies I think are being challenged right now because they don't have leadership, because to make a call and go with it. Because one of the things I learned that day, and maybe I did just because I had learned it, is I had to make a call. You didn't have time to do a 5-year plan. Okay, listen, I'm at the door right now. What's my plan, right? You had to make a decision and go. And my mentor who came into my life in 1983, who's no longer with us, So I told me years ago, back in the early 80s, you only got to be right 51% of the time. So it's like,
True.
if I make this call, I just got to be more than halfway certain that I was going to make the right call.
Yeah.
So part of leadership is resourcefulness and to be able to make a decision.
Indecision is killing businesses every day.
They don't want to
I
make it.
love that you said that. No. And if you do make it, Dave, one of my guests said it's a freeway. You go straight, that's indecision. You just keep going on the road. You go left, it's the right decision. Right, it's the wrong decision. Even if you go right, you could back up and make another decision for the mistake you made.
Yep. Well, we have a little saying in my company. I'll give this credit to my executive assistant Kelly. If we're not bleeding or dying, we'll figure it out. And so that's sort of our motto here, right? Unless you're on that death doorstep, right? And we can't do anything about it. We'll figure this thing out because we all make mistakes. We all make bad calls. I mean, heck, I make bad calls every 15 minutes, I think, sometimes, right?
Yep.
But you know what? At least the one thing my dad taught me is you got to make a call. You got to make a call, right? So,
got to make a call. Audience, you hear that? Got to make a call, whatever that is.
whatever
We're coming to the end here, but I want to talk about your magazine. This is what's great about a catastrophic event that could have been worse, wasn't. Great things like this happen. Talk about this wonderful magazine.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be a magazine publisher, Steve. I was in an event. I spoke at an event in Scottsdale, Arizona. A lady came up and said, "Do you need a magazine?" I said, "I'm not Oprah. I'm not Joanna Gaines. I mean, who am I to have a magazine?" She goes, "Listen, you got some stories. Just try it. Let me show you how to do it." So she showed me, and all of a sudden, I did this magazine called Moments Matter. It's taken off, where I'm getting some world-class people in this magazine, and what I do is try to tell their stories, including mine, but their stories likewise about what's the moment in life that triggered them to become who they are. Because I think everybody wants to hear, how does somebody get to be get that person, right? Give you an example. I had a lady by the name of Amy Porterfield on the cover. I've known Amy for 25 plus years. She's has basically built the online business, how to do online business, right? As an entrepreneur, worth over $100+ million. And I asked her to tell the story. How did you become Amy Porterfield, right? And all of a sudden, that was the one sort of, Steve, it took us off because all of a sudden people start realizing everybody's got a story. Everybody's got that Moments Matter story, right? If I can get those out, I can show other people, listen, you got a story too, right? There's no reason you can't accomplish what you want to be able to accomplish. You just haven't figured out the strategy yet. And if I can help you figure out the strategy through my magazine and other ways, then I can add value to you.
That's powerful. God, it's so great because you're right. It doesn't matter how big or small the story. Hers is big. You don't have to be 100 millionaire to impact people with your story.
That's right.
Your story is impacting. How many speaking gigs have you done?
I've been busted over 1,700 around the world. So
you're impacting people because of something that happened.
That's right.
And you probably, making money, you get paid, but that's okay. It's the impact more than the money.
It's all about the impact.
It comes out of your heart.
Yep.
Well, let's end with a fun little question here.
Okay.
So let's do the improv. So you're going to pick a restaurant. Me and you're going to go to this restaurant, eat. So I'm going to reserve it for you. I want you to invite 3 people, whether dead or alive, that have influenced you in your life. But more importantly, what food are we going to order? You going to order for the table?
Okay. Well, we're going to, you and I go out to dinner. We're going to definitely have steak. Okay. Right. We're definitely going to have a steakhouse. My favorite place is called Beef and Bottle here in Charlotte. Steakhouse. But, one of the people I would love to have is Ronald Reagan. I love just getting the mindset how he stayed so positive and how he turned this country around back in the 80s. I always admired how he did that. Next one would definitely be Jesus Christ. I would love to understand, how did this whole thing come about, man? Right? How did you pull 12 people together like you did? That's pretty powerful stuff, right? But the third person, I would probably like to bring my old mentor back, Bill, because Bill has so much wisdom. Bill was a multimillionaire here in Charlotte that took me under his wing for 13 years. I would just like to get back in his head now, looking at me 40 years later, right? Going, okay, Bill, all right, this is what I did with your stuff. Thank you. Yeah, and Bill and I actually went to the Beef and Bottle, so he would know what to order when we got there.
I got to tell you, I ran a restaurant. Beef and Bottle is a great name for a restaurant. First of all,
now opened 1954, still looks like it did in 1954.
Oh my God, amen to that.
Oh,
that's fantastic.
It's amazing.
Well, it looks like audience, I might have to fly out to Charlotte and see Dave.
Come on down. I'll take you to the Beef from the Bottle.
And talk about resilience. I don't know Bill that well, but Jesus and Ronald, Talk about resilience. That's 10 spades. Well, thank you for being an incredible guest. Thank you for sharing your story and helping impact people. How can people get the magazine? You've got 4 books. They can get the books. Where can you get those? And how can they connect with you?
Well, they would correct. I would love to connect with them through LinkedIn because I drop new content there every week, and then that's the best way to connect with me. But if you go to my website, davesandersonspeaks.com, you get a free digital download of the magazine right now. Just go to the books and magazines section. All my books are there, but the magazine's there too. And digitally you can just download it right there, so it doesn't cost you anything. Of course, if you want a printed copy, you can ask us, and of course there's a charge for that because we have to mail it out. But yeah, get the magazine there, and you can see some of the amazing stories of some of these amazing people. And I'll leave you with one thing. The newest thing we're doing right now, Steve, is I'm doing what my mentor did for me, and I call them mentor dinners. And where I take a group of people to meet someone in my world, it's very significant. Who's not only impacted me, but he's a thought leader. And the next one we're doing is April 2nd. We're doing it in Las Vegas with a gentleman named Chris Voss. He was an FBI negotiator. His book's called Never Split the Difference. So he and I are going to host a dinner in Vegas. So if anybody's interested, go to my website and you can check out that dinner on April 2nd if you want to come to Vegas with us.
But Dave, you inspire me. I'm going to do something special. Do this in some of my shows. The first 3 people that reach out to Dave and mention this podcast, I'm going to send you one of Dave's books for free. So make sure just let Dave know. You're very welcome, Dave. This is your inspiration. You're changing lives. I just want to be part of that. And again, just reach out to him. If you can't find it, get a hold, reach out to me or on the podcast, and we'll get his contact info and, dive into it and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yep.
Here's why, because what a great show. And you listen to somebody during Christmas. We're recording 12/15/25 right before Christmas. And we're all going to these parties, and you're going to hear stories of people that need resilience, that need hope, that need faith. Why not share Dave with them on a podcast? To me, these are gifts, and let's use these. And it could be any podcast, not just mine. So go ahead and give those gifts out, especially this Christmas season. And we'll see all of you in the next episode of Doing Business with Servant's Heart. Thank you all. Talk to you soon.